Hi, we have two people here today who have the most positive outlook on life. You won't believe how you can overcome the things that they've overcome. So I'm going to let them tell you their stories, because those of you who has received a diagnosis or some bad news about some healthcare issue should listen to what they've done and see how you can overcome that too. So I'd like to introduce you to them. They've been on the show before. Maria Panessa, thank you for joining us, and Frank Landon of the Chicago Look. So let's start with you, Maria.
Okay.
What happened to you?
What happened to me? I was in a merry-go-round that kept going faster and faster and faster. That's when you get into that mode of being a workaholic and not knowing when to stop. And then I had a big bang in my head. I was diagnosed with anal cancer. So,
did you have any symptoms?
Well, you know, you kind of ignore things. You know, when you're so involved in your work and you just, you know, you're always rushing. So really, I didn't have time to even be in tune with my own body and really, you know, pay attention to those. I just kind of dismissed them for too long, and then I faced the worst fear.
You had a situation prior to that.
In 2009,
right.
I had my first colonoscopy. So they took out some polyps, and one of them was pretty big, and they told me it had cancer in it. So when they first told me that, you know, it was right in the middle of my work day, you know, and they called me. I'm like, so what am I supposed to do now? So he said, you know, come back in, and we'll make sure that we got it all. So I did. I went back in, outpatient, went back to work, and he told me, you know what, I think we got it all. You don't need to, you know, come in for any treatments, but come back in 3 months. We're going to do a sigmoidoscopy, and we'll check. So they checked it, and I mean, I followed through with all of those, but
prior to that, you had something.
No, right after that,
right
it was
after
when
that?
I was starting to feel fatigued. You know, but then again, when I would tell my doctor, he says, well, look at your work schedule. No wonder you're fatigued. You don't even sleep, you know. So I had I broke out my arms and my legs, and this is when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, vasculitis. That was in 2012 at Northwestern. Then I even went to Mayo Clinic to get a second opinion. It's like, what do you do, you know? And it's autoimmune.
Well, you were dealing with a lot of chemicals in your career
chemicals.
as a hairdresser.
Oh, my God. I really, honestly, I was totally neglecting my body. Because I've always had nervous energy, you know, so I get in that mode and I don't know when to stop. But the vasculitis was one that really brought me down for a couple months. I couldn't even go to work. And you know, for me to not be able to go to work, I was pretty down. And also they were loading me up with prednisone at the time, and that made me worse. I had a suppressed immune system. The white blood cells were low. The prednisone was just making those things even worse. Yeah, worse. But yet it was the only thing that was bringing down that big rash that I had, because they took a biopsy of it, and that's when they diagnosed the vasculitis. So that was 2012. When I started to feel better, I got right back into the mode again, not slowing down until this. This one was the biggest one. Having that diagnosed really say, okay, you got my attention now. That's it.
Okay, so we've heard the sad part of your story now. Now, Frank, what happened to you?
Well, ironically, Maria and I have similar stories. I worked for Maria. I rented a salon from her, and we were both on the same treadmill. You know, there's a song by Barbra Streisand that goes, "Have I been too long at the fair?" And I did more of my share of being at the fair and I didn't want it. I didn't want it to end. I had a stroke in 2010, and people ask me, well, where did it come from? The only thing I can say, I had diabetes, but it's like, I guess the body just retaliated. At some point, I had a blood clot that went to my head, and I didn't know what was happening. It was like, I felt like I was dizzy, and by the end of the evening, I went outside, and I was walking like I was drunk, and the next morning, a friend of mine, I called the salon, and I said, they said, call an ambulance. You need to go in. And I went in, and they said, Mr. Landon, you've had a stroke. And I thought, even then, I said, are you nuts? I said, I'm going to get out of this bed. And I found myself falling out of the bed. And from that point on, up until this point, I'm going to make a long story short. Since then, it's been nothing but physical therapy and trying to find out what it was, trying to get back on the horse again. And at one point, at the very beginning of my recovery, I remember I was taking a lot of medication, and I wanted to commit suicide because I lost my hairdressing was my whole life, and I couldn't do that at the time, and I lost my way. So today, I'm dedicating my information to people that have had some kind of problems, physical or whatever, that not to give up hope. All I said, don't look back, keep going. And basically, what kept me going for the most part is on a natural plane, my family, my therapist, my physical therapy. Right now, at the end of the road. There's not much more they can do for me, other than what I can do for myself. I'm in going to the health club, but at the health club, there's a lot of people that you think that they're working out and everything, which is a good thing. But you know what? There's also a lot of people that are disabled that are trying to do the best that they can do. I wanted to say thank you to to Ben Benacourt. He's the regional manager, and my trainer Horacio, because they've really given me a lot of encouragement. And the best part of being here today is being able to say, I'm not being syrupy, but thank God that I've had the information and the situations and the friends, like Karon and Maria, and we've been able to share our experiences and grow from that. And that's what I wanted to say to people is just basically, don't give up, keep going.
Okay, but Frank, when this happened to you and you were dizzy, was the room spinning like you were drunk, or were you falling over, or what was happening to you?
Well, at the time it happened, I was taking medication for the diabetes, and I thought, well, maybe I forgot, and all I felt was like spinning in my head, and I felt dizzy, and I thought, well, it'll go away. Of course, that was my ego, because I didn't want to admit that anything was all wrong with me.
We all
And I
feel like
really
that.
didn't know what to do about it at the time. I did go to emergency, but I got bored sitting there, and I left. I said, it'll go away.
Well, at what time did you get paralysis then? When did the
The next
paralysis?
day.
The next day.
The next day.
The
I
next day.
think if they would have taken care of you the first time you went into the emergency room without you leaving,
Yeah.
then he wouldn't have, because they would have got it
What
fast
I tell
enough.
people now, if you are experiencing symptoms of things that you're not sure of, preventative measures is like find out what it's like if you're think you're having a stroke, what the symptoms are.
And you got to tell them as soon as you get there because
Oh,
they,
yeah.
you know, this is medication they can give you fast.
Yes,
but if
right
you're,
away.
you know, if you can't hold your hands right, if your face is drooping, there's a lot of different things that start
Yes.
showing up.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I wish that I had known beforehand. I could have done the things that you've talked about, gone there, and I should have just got in an ambulance and gone in. But
Yeah,
I
because
didn't.
then they take you in right away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you sit and wait, you sit and wait there, you know, you're not going to get taken right away. But it was not a good experience. But I'm grateful today that I'm not in a. I was in a wheelchair, and for a while, and my part of my face was paralyzed, and I had trouble talking, and I drugged my leg. I couldn't pick up my leg, and because I was in the same place when I went to the hospital, I got transferred to a place where there was physical therapy. But I remember them putting a strap around me, holding me like a child, and I was dragging my leg, and it's like, and it felt like it was forever, and it's like, I'm glad it's over with, and I'm trying to do preventative things so it doesn't repeat it, because people have multiple strokes, so I'm trying to do the right things to keep myself in a position where it won't get progressive, you know. So
Well, Frank, you've had to overcome a lot of things in life, bullying included, right?
pardon me,
You've had to overcome a lot of things in life, bullying included, right?
bullying.
Bullying.
People bullied you when you were younger?
Yes, but it really in reference to that, more so with the stroke. I want to say this to people: the bullying came from, and it really makes me angry to think about it, that many people, just because they think that you've had a condition, a stroke or whatever it is, they treat you like a second-rate citizen, you know. And I tell people they shouldn't happen, because, you know, yes, my mind wasn't as sharp as it was then, but it got better. So it's like, don't belittle people, you know, with people that have that, because you know what, you don't know where they're at, and you don't know where they're going, and so it's like, give them the same respect you would of anybody else, because you never know that's where you might be, you know. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, but it's true. What having the stroke slowed me down to a point where I didn't like some of the things I experienced. It takes you to your past, and you got to get past that and bring you in the present, and it makes you wonder, like, not to go too far into the future too, because it's like, you know, your mind wants to go there, but your body doesn't want to go there. So, you know, you have to do a lot of things to bring it back into balance again.
But you are cutting hair again, and you are working again, and you are
I
going
am.
out again.
I am. I'm not doing a lot. I want to do a lot more, but I don't want to repeat the same mistakes. I'm not pushing myself to do more than I can do. I'm trying to enjoy where I'm at, as opposed to where I think that I really want to be. And
Well, we all think we're 20 again, so.
well, I'm not. I'm 35. You know?
Yeah.
But and you know what? And that's okay, because you know what? I am not living a life of retirement in my mind. I tell people, keep on going. You know, there's two different clocks, I believe. There's one that's the worldly clock, and there's a spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there's no such thing as no. You can be and do whatever you want to do, you know. And the main thing is, don't give up.
But I want to ask you too, you had to be in a wheelchair for a time period. I always make an effort to talk to people in wheelchairs, because they have the best seat in the house sometimes, you know. But, you know, because like you say, people get ignored if they think you're disabled or something. And people kind of overlook and don't talk to you and things like that. Being a nurse, I mean, I'm used to doing that, so I talk to people like that. And I think everybody should do that, because otherwise they say that they feel invalidated in the world, that people ignore them. Or if they have a dog, they'll talk to the dog, but they don't talk to the patient, or the, you know, whatever. So did you feel like you didn't get as much attention when you were in a wheelchair, like people ignored you, or not?
Well, to be quite honest, the first year, denial got me through. I really kind of didn't care. But after that, as I started getting better, um, I found that people, I mean, people were very nice. They would open doors for me and everything as I got better. But um, they would, there was people that would, uh, some of my clients, which was really kind of emotional. It's like they didn't want me to touch them because they didn't want, thought, well, they're going to ruin my hair. And you know what? I at that particular point in my time in my life, I wasn't really kind of focused. So it's not so much that it was like my mind had to catch up with the rest of me so that I could do it. I mean, I'm much better now than what I used to be, but it was before. It was really very difficult, fighting your own body, and much less having people confirm that you're not okay. When and I'm saying I am okay. I'm okay. I'm okay for me at this particular moment. But what I have today, and I wish I could have had it then, was like I don't need people's approval to be who I am. And I got stuck in that particular stance. And today I'm very strong about it. I really don't care whether people validate me or not. Do the best that
I guess what
you
I'm
can do.
saying is don't ignore disabled people because they still have a mind and they still want to talk to you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Maria, now we had the beginning of your story, but you look wonderful. And how have you
Thank you.
overcome all of this? Because you've had all kinds of treatments too.
Yes, well, right after my diagnosis, which was February 2016, again, I was at work and they told me I had to excuse myself, go in the back and hear this news and then come back to a client sitting in my chair. So the denial part is what helps in the beginning. It's like, nah, it's not true. It's like, well, you just told me, nah, you're not talking about me. So I finished my client, and I went back, and I called the doctor again. And I said, all right, what's the next step? What do we do? It's like, so I wasn't going to just sit there and wait to digest this information. I was on automatic pilots, like, what do we do? So in other words, I'm not going to just sit there and accept this without a fight, So I think that was good that my attitude was that way. I mean, I got angry, not at the doctor, of course, on my way home, because then I had to, tell my family. And so it's like as I was saying it, it was becoming a bit more real, So the first thing was to clear my schedule. And that was the thing, because I was always so booked, as you know, from morning to night every day. And but I found it very I did what I had to do, again, I went on automatic pilot. And because the doctor told me you have to clear your schedule because you're going to have a lot of doctor's appointments, and I have to get a team together for your particular case, and then we have to. So that was the first thing I did. The first doctor that I was sent to was the chemotherapy oncologist, a woman, who my husband went with me, and he just sat there just listening, because it's hard for him to really be assertive, especially in the medical field. So he just sat there and listened. And this doctor recited a litany of diatribe of all the side effects that the chemotherapy would have. And not only that, she also was approaching me with a condescending attitude and a judgmental one, because anal cancer, she saying, it's mainly for people who are promiscuous and oh my God, yeah, she was actually, yes. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been married for 40 years. And then she was also insinuating that the number one cause was certain types of sexual activities, which I had never even thought about. And so she made me feel so like this. My husband sat there with his mouth open. He couldn't say a word.
Well, doctors today are not the way they used to be. To me, and I've seen a lot of it recently because of relatives being ill, it's horrific. And they tell you the worst stuff. Instead of saying, this is what it is, but let me worry about it, let me take care of it,
There
let
was
me be
no,
it's completely the opposite
there was
now,
no
and it's
phrases
sad.
like, we're gonna, we're gonna
Right.
treat you, this can be treatable, blah, none of that.
I know, it's like they want to read you the complications, which is
So,
not the way it should be.
Yeah, and then she said, oh, by the way, are you HIV positive? Because that's one of the, the things that
No, really?
brings this on. I'm like, no, I'm not. She goes, well, I'm going to have you tested anyway. Oh, and on her way out of the office, she said to me, now this was my first meeting with a doctor for this. So you talk about something that's ominous. I mean,
It's sad.
she said, if I were you, I would wish that I was HIV positive because then it might be more treatable.
What?
That's how she left the room. And I was just,
I hope you changed doctors right after that.
well,
in an hour, like.
I didn't know what to do at that point, Karen. I really, I did not know that I can go and educate myself on this. So I had to have those experiences in order for me to like really fight, and then said, no, I'm not taking all these people's word. I'm going to find out things for myself. And I did a lot of that. I did a lot of research, a lot of reading. I really, really dedicated my time to fighting this thing. So the second one that I had to go see was the surgeon, colorectal surgeon, Dr. Favuzza, who actually I feel she really helped in saving my life too. The oncologists were against me having the surgery. They just wanted to start the chemo and radiation immediately. And I was deathly afraid of those things, Plus, you get inundated with information from all the well-wishers, and, one tells you, don't do this, you're going to die if you do that, don't do that. I mean, it was horrible, really overwhelming. So I had to really do a lot of soul searching and a lot of meditation so that I could be in balance enough to be able to listen to what my own intuition was saying.
Well, you're a meditator anyway. I mean, you.
Well, thank God that I did learn that throughout my life, because that's what saved me. Because the radiation oncologist was also just as worse than the first one. But at least I kind of, at the end of our session that day, because he wanted me to sign the papers right away, after he told me about all the bad stuff. And I said, so why would I want to just sign my name to something that's going to kill me anyway? Plus, I made him aware that his approach just really was not at all.
But tell us what you did, because we're going to run out of time before we find out what you did.
Oh, okay. So what I did was the meditation. Number one, I radically changed what I was eating. Really. I mean, did a whole paradigm shift.
Okay, to what?
To, well, at that time, more veganism,
Like
not eating
fresh
animal,
things? Fresh
whole, yes, everything whole foods, nothing prepared. I mean, I cooked everything at home. I did a lot of juicing. I used essential oils because they're very healing. I used aromatherapy. I used Bach remedies. I used CBD oil and cannabis tea.
And what did you do with it?
I made tea.
Oh, okay.
And then also I have, this is a mistletoe, which is used for boosting the immune system. So it's being studied at Johns Hopkins. Right now it's under testing. So, but really,
So where are you at right now with your diagnosis?
Right now I'm in remission, knock on wood.
And you look wonderful, and you certainly have a good color, and people that are not good normally have a very gray color, and you have a very bright color.
You know what? The doctors were amazed even when I was at my worst. I was hospitalized 12 times. And one of the longest stays was 22 days in the hospital during my treatments. I really was at death's door quite a few times. And because my attitude has always been, I'm going to fight this, and I always had a smile on my face, even when I had no hair, I just had my little turban on. And the doctors were always amazed because they would read my chart, and then they would look at me, and it's like, nah, this is not the same person.
Yeah.
So I think attitude has a lot to do with your healing process, watching your thoughts. I practice that a lot.
Your brain hears what you say.
Exactly.
And Frank, you were the same way. You were determined to overcome it and get back to your old life.
You know what? I've got little pieces of the past, the present, but you know what? My therapist calls it fortune telling. He said, "Don't try to project what you don't have. Just live for today. Live for today. It's and try to absorb
Well,
everything
there's a lot
positive."
of people who have overcome things, and a lot of people who haven't because they just gave up. You know.
But that's it.
Yeah.
It's the attitude. It's like.
And I can understand that when you get a devastating news. I mean, it's a shock to your system, psychologically as well as physically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you two have proven that you've come back from two serious diagnoses. So, is there one last thing you'd like to say? We probably only have a minute left for each of you.
Well, I'm still on the journey, and I will be on the journey.
We're all on the journey.
Yes, but being really aware of being on the journey. That's what it is. Because a lot of times you're on a journey, but you're not paying attention. And really, it's important to have the spiritual connection, and also to have the connection with your body. I mean, be in communion with it. You can actually communicate with each part of your body. And that's what I did, a lot of that. Used visualization. Again, meditation, it's extremely important. I'm doing twice a week. I go to yoga now, which helps me tremendously. And I'm looking to take dance classes because I want to incorporate that too.
What kind of dancing are you going to do?
I don't know, ballroom, flamenco, who knows?
Well, you know how to dance now, though, right? You just
I
want.
just want to be out there dancing.
Is your husband going to go
dancing.
with you?
Well, I'm going to talk him into it if I can.
It's good exercise too. What about you, Frank? You're going to take up your singing again?
I'm working on it, but I just want to say, you know what? I've changed my life where I live more in the supernatural world rather than the natural world, because it's like in the supernatural world, there's no such thing as no, so that's where I'm at today. You know, and sticking around to do your hair, Karon.
Well, my whole life, my father said no to everything I asked him if I could do. And I had to figure out a way to turn it into a yes, which was great for me, because then in life and in business, when a man said no to me, it meant nothing. It just meant I had to turn it around.
Right, exactly.
It's like, this is nothing, so we'll go on from here, you know. And many times it worked. But I have to say, I mean, you two are very motivated. They've had very serious illnesses, and they're out having a good time as well as doing work and things like that. So there is hope. I mean, if you get a bad disease or something, you know, there is hope. And, you know, like I said, I'm disappointed in my own profession in healthcare now, because I hear so many people that have bad bedside manners and are telling you about the complications before they tell you about the positive things. So don't listen to all of that. Just decide that you can research things and educate yourself and try all different kinds of things. I mean, I recently had a doctor ask me why I wait so long to fix something in my eye that was hit with a ball. And she said, why would you wait so long? There could be complications. And I said, that's fine. And she's not my doctor because of that. Because if she didn't say, but I can handle it, I'm not interested in her. So you can switch doctors at any time too. But anyway, we're done for today. Thank you, Maria Panessa. Thank you, Frank Landon
Thank
of the
you for
Chicago
having
Look.
us.
And Maria, you have ventures.
Oh,
What's it
I have a
called?
few ventures, GM Ventures.
GM Ventures.
We actually are now just doing some property management, my husband and I.
And Frank is the Chicago Look.
I'm starting a
hairdresser.
new skincare business.
He is starting a new skincare business. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us.